the ending that became a beginning. At 72 years old, Robert Bob Henderson sat in the parking lot of Henderson Manufacturing, the company he'd built from nothing over 45 years, and watched someone else's name being painted over his on the front entrance. His hands gripped the steering wheel of his Ford F-150 so tight his knuckles turned white. Inside that building were 4 decades of 60-hour weeks, missed family dinners, sacrificed vacations, and everything he'd poured his life into. And he just sold it all. The new owners had made it clear they didn't need him anymore. At 72, he was too old, too set in his ways, too much of a relic from a different era of manufacturing. They wanted his company, his client list, his patents, but they didn't want him. "We appreciate everything you've built, Mr. Henderson," the 34-year-old CEO had said during the transition meeting, barely looking up from his laptop. "But we're taking the company in a new direction. Digital integration, AI optimization, lean processes. I'm sure you understand." Bob understood perfectly. He was being put out to pasture. This is the story of what happened next. How a 72-year-old man who thought his productive life was over-discovered that his most important work hadn't even started yet. How he went from forced retirement to building something that would impact more lives than his manufacturing company ever did. But getting there required confronting grief, loneliness, irrelevance, and the terrifying question, who am I when I'm no longer who I've always been? It required starting over with nothing but time, experience, and a refusal to fade quietly into retirement. Bob Henderson had never planned to sell. Henderson Manufacturing had been his identity since 1979, when he started the business in a rented garage in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with $5,000 borrowed from his father-in-law and a single contract to produce industrial valve components. He'd built it into a $12 million company with 45 employees. Not a Fortune 500 giant, but solid, profitable, respected in the industry. His parts were in factories across the Midwest. He employed people he'd known for decades. It was his legacy. But in the last 5 years, everything had changed. The big orders started going to cheaper, overseas manufacturers. His longtime clients were being bought by private equity firms that cared only about cost per unit. Young engineers fresh out of college talked about 3D printing and automation like they were magic solutions to everything. And Bob, who still kept handwritten notes in a leather planner and preferred talking to people face-to-face instead of endless Zoom calls, found himself increasingly out of step with where the industry was going. His son, Michael, who worked in tech in Austin, had been blunt during their last Thanksgiving. "Dad, you need to think about your exit strategy. You're 71. The business is worth something now, but that won't last forever. Sell while you can get a good price." Bob's wife, Linda, had been gentler but said essentially the same thing. "Honey, you've worked so hard for so long. Maybe it's time to enjoy life. We could travel, spend time with the grandkids. You've earned rest." Rest. The word felt like a death sentence. But the numbers didn't lie. Revenue was down 30% from its peak. 2 of his biggest clients had moved production to China. The machinery in his shop was aging, and the investment needed to modernize would be substantial. At 71, did he have the energy to rebuild? The offer came in March 2024. A manufacturing conglomerate wanted to acquire Henderson Manufacturing. They'd absorb his client list, consolidate production into their existing facilities, and optimize operational efficiency. The number was good. Not retired to yacht good, but comfortable retirement in Florida good. His accountant advised him to take it. His lawyer advised him to take it. Even Linda, always his biggest supporter, quietly suggested it might be time. Bob signed the papers in June. The deal closed in August. By September, he was officially retired and completely lost. The first month wasn't bad. There were paperwork details to finish, transition meetings to attend, a small retirement party where people gave speeches about his contributions to the local manufacturing sector. He stayed busy. The second month was harder. Bob found himself waking up at 5:30 a.m. out of habit, with nowhere to go. He'd drive past the old factory just to see it, then feel pathetic and drive home. Linda tried to fill his schedule with activities. Golf lessons, woodworking classes, a seniors travel group planning a trip to national parks. He hated all of it. Golf felt like a waste of time. Woodworking reminded him he was making useless decorative objects instead of parts that actually did something important. And the idea of spending 2 weeks on a bus with other retirees talking about their grandchildren and medications made him want to scream. By the third month, Bob was depressed. He'd sit in his home office, the room that used to be command central when he brought work home, now just a repository for old files he couldn't bring himself to throw away, and wonder what the point of anything was. He wasn't needed at the company anymore. His kids were grown with their own lives. Linda had her book club, her garden club, her volunteer work at the library. She had a purpose. She had somewhere to be. What did he have? One Tuesday morning in November, 4 months into retirement, Linda found him still in his bathrobe at 11 a.m., staring at the TV without really watching it. "Bob," she said gently, sitting down next to him. "This isn't you. You're not a sit-around person. You never have been." "What am I supposed to do?" he said, his voice flat. "I'm 72 years old. Nobody wants to hire a 72-year-old. I'm too old to start another business. I'm just done. Finished. Taking up space until I die." Linda took his hand. "You're not done. You're just scared. Scared of being irrelevant. Scared of not mattering. But Bob, you matter to me. You matter to our kids. And you have so much to offer. You just need to figure out what that is. I spent 45 years building something, and they erased me in 6 months. Painted over my name like I was never there. What's the point of building anything if it just disappears?" "Maybe," Linda said carefully, "you built the wrong thing. Or maybe you need to build something different now. Something that can't be painted over." That conversation stuck with Bob. He couldn't shake it. What could he build that couldn't be erased? What did he have to offer at 72 that mattered? He started thinking about his career. What had he actually been good at? Not just manufacturing parts. Anyone could do that with the right equipment. What had made Henderson manufacturing successful for 4 decades? Problem solving. That's what he'd always been good at. A client would come to him with a complex engineering challenge, and Bob would figure out how to manufacture a solution. He understood materials, tolerances, production processes. He could look at a blueprint and see not just what it was asking for, but what the underlying problem was, and sometimes a better way to solve it. He'd mentored dozens of young engineers and machinists over the years, taught them not just the technical skills, but how to think about manufacturing, how to troubleshoot, how to balance quality with cost. And he realized something. That knowledge was still valuable. Maybe not to big corporations with their AI and automation, but to someone, somewhere, it had to matter. He just had to figure out to whom. The search for purpose. Bob started spending his mornings at the local library, not because he particularly loved libraries, but because it got him out of the house and gave him somewhere to be that wasn't a golf course or senior center. Linda seemed relieved he was doing something, anything, besides sitting in his bathrobe watching cable news. He'd grab coffee at the Starbucks next door, settle into one of the quiet study rooms, and read industry publications, manufacturing journals, news about the trades. And what he read troubled him. There was a massive skilled trades gap in America. Millions of manufacturing jobs going unfilled because there weren't enough trained machinists, welders, tool and die makers. The average age of a skilled trades person was 56 and climbing. Young people weren't entering the trades. Everyone wanted to go to college, get office jobs, work in tech. Meanwhile, companies were desperate for people who actually knew how to make things with their hands. Bob had seen this firsthand in his own company. In the last decade, it had become nearly impossible to find qualified machinists. The guys here were nearing retirement themselves, and there was no one to replace them. One article particularly struck him. It was about a community college in Ohio struggling to fill its machining program. They had state-of-the-art equipment donated by manufacturers, but only 6 students enrolled. The program coordinator was quoted saying, "Young people don't even know these careers exist. They think manufacturing is dead. But these jobs pay $60,000 to $80,000 a year with benefits, and we can't find enough people to train." Bob read that article 3 times. He thought about his own path. He'd learned machining from his father, who'd worked at an automotive plant. Started as an apprentice at 18, learned on the job, worked his way up. By the time he started his own company, he had skills that took years to develop. Who was teaching young people those skills now? The idea came to him slowly, over several days of thinking. What if he taught? What if he took everything he knew, 45 years of practical manufacturing experience, and passed it on to young people who wanted to learn a trade but didn't know where to start? He wasn't a teacher, had never taught anything except training employees on the job, but he knew manufacturing inside and out. He understood the industry, the skills needed, the real-world problems that textbooks never covered. Maybe that was enough. Bob mentioned the idea to Linda over dinner one night. "I'm thinking about volunteering at the community college," he said, "teaching machining or manufacturing basics. They have programs, but they're struggling to get students. Maybe I could help." Linda looked up from her salad, surprised. "That's a wonderful idea. You'd be great at that. I don't have a teaching degree. I don't know if they'd even want me." "Bob, you taught people for 45 years. Every person who worked for you learned from you. You're a natural teacher. You just weren't calling it teaching." The next day, Bob drove to Grand Rapids Community College and found the Industrial Technology Department. It was tucked away in an older building on the edge of campus, far from the shiny new facilities for nursing and computer science. He met with the department head, a man named Tom Chun, who looked to be in his early 50s and seemed perpetually exhausted. "Mr. Henderson," Tom said, shaking his hand, "what can I do for you?" "I'm retired," Bob said. "Ran a manufacturing company for 45 years. Sold it a few months ago, and I'm going crazy sitting at home. I read you're having trouble filling the machining program. I'd like to help. Volunteer. Teach. Whatever you need." Tom's eyebrows went up. "You want to volunteer?" "To teach." "I'm not a teacher. Don't have credentials. But I know manufacturing, and I've got nothing but time." Tom laughed, but it wasn't unkind. "Mr. Henderson, I can't pay you much even if I wanted to. Our budget is almost nothing. But if you're serious, I could absolutely use the help. We've got equipment we can barely use because we don't have enough instructors. And honestly, the students need someone who's actually worked in the industry, not just people like me who went from college to teaching." "I'm serious," Bob said. "When can you start?" They worked out the details. Bob would come in twice a week to assist in the machining fundamentals class. He'd work with students one-on-one, help them with projects, share real-world experience. No formal teaching. Tom would handle the curriculum, but hands-on mentoring. Bob started the following week. The class had 8 students, 6 men, 2 women, ranging in age from 19 to 34. Most had started college and dropped out or had been working dead-end retail jobs and wanted a career with better pay. One was a single mom trying to build a better life for her kids. Another was a former Marine who wanted to work with his hands. They were hungry to learn but rough around the edges. They knew the theory from textbooks but had no practical experience. They'd read about tolerances and measurements, but had never actually felt the difference between a good cut and a bad one. This was where Bob came alive. He couldn't stand at the front of a classroom and lecture. That wasn't him. But put him next to a lathe with a student trying to figure out why their part wasn't coming out right, and he was in his element. "See, you're forcing it," Bob would say, guiding a student's hands. "Let the machine do the work. Feel that? That vibration means you're pushing too hard. Ease up. There. Now you've got it." He had stories for everything. When they were learning about material properties, he'd tell them about the time a client specified the wrong grade of steel, and the parts failed in the field, and what he'd learned from that expensive mistake. When they practiced reading blueprints, he'd show them examples from real projects and explain what the engineer was actually trying to accomplish. The students loved him. "Mr. Henderson is the only reason I'm passing this class," one student told Tom. "The textbook makes no sense, but when he explains it, I get it. He talks about why we're doing things, not just how." Tom pulled Bob aside after a few weeks. "I need to talk to you about something." Bob's heart sank. He figured he'd overstepped, done something wrong, was about to be politely asked to leave. "The students are requesting more time with you," Tom said. "They want to know if you'd be willing to come in for additional hours. Maybe help with the advanced class too. I still can't pay you, but—" "I'll do it," Bob said immediately. "As many hours as you want. I've got nothing else to do." Tom smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that, because I think we might be able to start recruiting more students if we can tell them they'll be learning from someone who actually ran a manufacturing company for 4 decades. Over the next few months, Bob increased his time at the college. 2 days a week became 3, then 4. He was there more than some of the full-time faculty. And something remarkable started happening. Word spread among students that there was this older guy in the machine shop who actually knew what he was talking about, who could teach you real skills that would get you hired. Enrollment in the machining program started climbing. By spring semester, they had 15 students. By fall, 23. But Bob noticed something else. The students didn't just need technical skills. They needed mentoring, life advice, someone who believed in them. Many came from difficult backgrounds, poverty, family problems. They'd been told their whole lives they weren't college material, weren't smart enough, would never amount to anything. They'd internalized that message. Bob recognized that feeling. He'd felt irrelevant and useless just a few months ago. He understood what it was like to doubt your own value. So he started showing up early and staying late, not just to teach machining, but to talk, to listen, to tell students that they had worth, that learning a skilled trade was honorable work, that they could build good lives and careers with their hands. One student, a 22-year-old named Marcus who dropped out of college and was working at McDonald's, broke down crying one day after successfully completing a difficult project. "Nobody's ever believed in me before," Marcus said. "Teachers just pass me along. My family thinks I'm wasting my time here. But you treat me like I matter, like what I'm learning matters." "It does matter," Bob said. "And you matter. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." 6 months into his volunteering, Bob realized something profound. He was happier than he'd been in years. Maybe happier than he'd ever been. Building Henderson Manufacturing had been satisfying. Making parts, running a business, employing people, that all mattered. But this was different. This was changing lives. These students would have careers because of what he was teaching them. They'd support families, buy homes, build futures. He wasn't just transferring technical knowledge. He was transferring hope. Linda noticed a change in him immediately. "You're smiling again," she said one evening. "I haven't seen you this energized in years." "I think I found what I'm supposed to be doing," Bob said. "Not manufacturing parts. Teaching people. I spent 45 years building a company. Maybe I'm supposed to spend the next part of my life building people." But there was a problem. Bob's volunteer work was limited by the college's infrastructure. They could only accept so many students. The equipment was old and breaking down. The budget was tight. And Bob had more to offer than just hands-on mentoring. He started thinking bigger. What if he could reach more people? What if he could create something that wasn't limited by classroom space or equipment or budgets? He didn't know exactly what that would look like yet, but a seed of an idea was starting to grow. Building something bigger. The idea hit Bob during a conversation with one of the students, a 28-year-old named Sarah, who was struggling to balance the machining program with her full-time job and 2 kids. "I wish I could learn at home," she said, frustrated after missing another class due to a childcare emergency. "I watch YouTube videos about machining, but they're all either too basic or too advanced. There's nothing that teaches the way you do, like actually explaining the why behind everything." Bob went home that night and couldn't stop thinking about what Sarah had said. YouTube, online learning. He'd heard his grandkids talk about learning everything from cooking to car repair from YouTube videos. His son Michael was always going on about online courses and digital education. What if Bob created online content teaching manufacturing and machining? Not as a replacement for hands-on training. You couldn't learn to operate a lathe from a video, but as a supplement. Theory, problem-solving, blueprint reading, industry knowledge. All the things he was good at explaining. He mentioned it to Linda, expecting her to laugh at the idea of a 72-year-old trying to become a YouTuber. Instead, she said, "That's brilliant. You're a natural explainer, and you could reach way more people than just the students at the college." I don't know anything about making videos. I barely know how to use my smartphone. So you'll learn. You spent 45 years learning manufacturing. You can learn to use a camera. Bob called Michael that weekend. "Dad, that's actually a great idea," Michael said, sounding genuinely enthusiastic. "There's a huge market for skilled trades education online. And honestly, most of it is garbage, either too slick and corporate or too amateur. Someone with real experience teaching in an authentic way, that could really work. I don't even know where to start. Start simple. Get a decent camera. Film yourself teaching something you know really well. Don't worry about it being perfect. Just be yourself. If it works, we can improve the production quality later." Bob bought a camera. Not an expensive one. Just a decent digital camera from Best Buy that the teenage sales associate assured him would be totally fine for YouTube. He also bought a cheap tripod and a basic microphone. Then he sat in his garage workshop for 3 days, staring at the equipment, having no idea what to do. Finally, Linda said, "Bob, just turn the camera on and teach. Pretend you're talking to one of your students. Explain something simple. Don't overthink it." Bob set up the camera pointed at his workbench. He pulled out a blueprint from an old project, laid it on the bench, and hit record. "Hi, I'm Bob Henderson. I ran a manufacturing company for 45 years, and now I teach machining at Grand Rapids Community College. Today I want to talk about how to read a blueprint, not the textbook way, the way you'll actually use it on the shop floor." He talked for 20 minutes, pointing out details on the blueprint, explaining what different symbols meant, sharing stories about mistakes he'd made and lessons he'd learned. He forgot the camera was even there. He was just teaching. When he finished and watched the video back, it was rough. The lighting was bad. The audio was tinny. He said a lot, but the content was solid. It was real. It was him. Michael helped him edit it down to 15 minutes and upload it to YouTube. They titled it Blueprint Reading for Beginners, Real World Manufacturing. Bob created a YouTube channel called Henderson Shop Class. He designed a simple logo using a free online tool. He wrote a channel description. 45 years of manufacturing experience, taught simply, real skills for real jobs. He uploaded the video on a Tuesday evening in January 2025. By Friday, it had 47 views. Bob was discouraged. 47 people. That's it. That's all the impact I can make. "Dad," Michael said on the phone, 47 people is 47 more than you reached before. And it's been 3 days. Give it time. Keep making videos. So Bob kept going. He made a video about measuring tools and how to use them properly. Another about different types of materials and their properties. One about shop safety that told stories of accidents he'd seen and how to prevent them. Another about the skilled trades gap and why young people should consider manufacturing careers. He posted 1 video a week. Sometimes 2 if he was feeling ambitious. The views slowly climbed. 50 views per video, then 100, then 500. But more importantly, comments started appearing. "This is the clearest explanation of GD&T I've ever seen. Thank you. I'm starting machining school next month, and your videos are helping me prepare. You explain things so much better than my textbook. I'm 45 years old, laid off from retail, and thinking about a career change. Your videos are making me think I could actually do this." That last comment hit Bob hard. Someone his age was finding hope in what he was teaching. He wasn't just reaching young people. He was reaching anyone who needed a second chance, a new direction, a reason to believe they could still build something meaningful. By March, his videos were getting 2,000 to 3,000 views each. His channel had 800 subscribers. Then one video went viral, or at least viral by manufacturing education standards. It was titled, "Why Your Engineering Degree Won't Get You Hired and What Will." Bob had filmed it after a frustrating conversation with a former student who'd been rejected for jobs despite having perfect grades. In the video, Bob explained the gap between engineering education and real-world manufacturing. Schools teach you theory. They teach you software. But they don't teach you how to talk to the people on the shop floor. They don't teach you that the machinist with 30 years of experience knows more about making your design work than you do. They don't teach you humility or practical problem solving, or how to collaborate across disciplines. He told stories. He gave concrete examples. He was blunt in a way that clearly resonated. The video got 50,000 views in 2 weeks. His subscriber count jumped to 5,000. Companies started reaching out. Small manufacturers wanted to know if he did consulting. Community colleges asked if he'd create content for their programs. A textbook publisher wanted to discuss a potential book deal. Bob was overwhelmed and exhilarated in equal measure. But the message that mattered most came from a viewer named James. Mr. Henderson, I'm 19 years old. I dropped out of college because I couldn't afford it and didn't know what I wanted to do anyway. I was delivering pizzas and feeling like a failure. Then I found your videos. You made manufacturing sound like something honorable, something I could be proud of doing. I enrolled in a machining program. I start next month. Thank you for giving me direction when I had none. Bob read that email 3 times, tears in his eyes. This was what Linda had meant about building something that couldn't be painted over. He wasn't building a company that could be sold or shut down. He was building knowledge, confidence, and purpose in people's lives. That couldn't be erased. Tom at the community college noticed the impact too. Bob, we've had a 40% increase in applications to the machining program this semester. When we ask students why they're interested, half of them mention your YouTube channel. You're single-handedly reviving interest in skilled trades, at least around here. The channel kept growing. 10,000 subscribers, then 25,000. Bob improved the production quality. Better camera, better lighting, learned basic editing. But he kept the core the same. Real knowledge, plainly explained with stories and heart. He expanded beyond just technical skills. He made videos about job searching, interviewing, salary negotiation, about the reality of manufacturing careers, not glamorous, but stable, well-paying, satisfying if you like making things, about the dignity of skilled work. One video, at 72, I'm busier than I was at 50 and happier, told his own story, the sale of his company, the depression, finding purpose in teaching, starting the YouTube channel. The response was overwhelming. I'm 68 and thought my productive life was over. You inspired me to find a second act. My dad is retiring soon and dreading it. I sent him your video. Thank you. This made me cry. I'm 55 and was just laid off. I thought I was done. But maybe I'm just getting started. By summer 2025, Henderson's shop class had 50,000 subscribers. Bob was producing 3 videos a week. He'd set up a Patreon where viewers could support the channel. And to his shock, 200 people were contributing $5 to $20 a month. He wasn't getting rich, but he was making enough to upgrade his equipment and donate to the community college's machining program. More importantly, he was making a difference. He tracked it through comments, emails, and messages. People were enrolling in trade schools because of his videos. They were getting jobs, building careers, finding purpose. A manufacturing company in Ohio reached out with an unusual proposal. They wanted to sponsor a scholarship program for students pursuing machining careers. They wanted to call it the Henderson's Shop Class Scholarship. They'd seen Bob's impact and wanted to amplify it. Bob was speechless. I'm just making videos in my garage, he told the company's HR director. You're doing more than that, she said. You're changing the narrative around skilled trades. You're showing people that manufacturing is a viable, honorable career. You're filling our talent pipeline. This scholarship is the least we can do to support that. The first year, the scholarship funded 5 students at $5,000 each. The next year, 10 students. Other companies started contributing. By 2026, the Henderson Shop Class Scholarship Fund was supporting 25 students annually. Bob cried when he met the first scholarship recipients in person. They were kids like Sarah, like Marcus, people who needed a chance, who had potential but not money, who wanted to work hard but needed someone to believe in them. He'd spent 45 years building a manufacturing company that made parts. Good parts. Important parts. But parts. Now, at 74, he was building something more lasting. He was building hope, opportunity. He was building people. And that, Bob realized, was worth more than any company he'd ever owned. The legacy that couldn't be erased. 2 years after starting Henderson's shop class, Bob sat in his garage studio, which had evolved from a cluttered workbench to a proper recording setup, and filmed what he thought would be just another video. He titled it, "What I Wish I'd Known at 30, Advice from 74. In it, Bob talked about a career, the pride of building a company, the pain of watching it be dismantled by new owners who didn't care about his legacy, the darkness of those first months of retirement when he felt invisible, irrelevant, finished. I thought my value was in what I produced," Bob said, looking directly at the camera. "Parts, products, revenue. I thought if I wasn't making something tangible, I wasn't contributing. And when they took that away from me, I thought I had nothing left to offer." He paused, emotion thick in his voice. "I was wrong. My value wasn't in the parts one made. It was in the knowledge I gained making those parts, the problem solving, the experience, the lessons learned from 45 years of mistakes and successes. That knowledge didn't disappear when I sold my company. It's still here, and it turns out people need it." He talked about the students, the emails, the comments from people who'd found new careers, new purpose, new hope because of something he'd taught them. "At 72, I thought I was done. At 74, I'm just getting started. And if there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's this. Your value isn't in your job title or your company or your productivity. It's in what you know, what you've learned, and whether you're willing to share that with others. You're never too old for that. Never." The video went viral. 500,000 views in the first week. 2 million within a month. News outlets picked it up. 74-year-old retiree builds YouTube empire teaching manufacturing. Grandfather's shop class inspires thousands to enter skilled trades. He sold his company at 72. Then he built something better. Bob was invited to speak at manufacturing conferences. Community colleges asked him to keynote their graduation ceremonies. A documentary filmmaker wanted to make a short film about his story. But the moment that mattered most came on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Bob was at Grand Rapids Community College, working with students in the machine shop, like he did every Tuesday and Thursday. He'd never stopped volunteering, even as his YouTube channel grew. This was where it had started, and he wasn't going to abandon it. A young man walked into the shop, looking nervous and out of place. He was maybe 20, wearing a McDonald's uniform, clearly on his lunch break. "Are you Bob Henderson?" he asked. "I am. I'm Marcus Johnson. I sent you an email about 2 years ago. You probably don't remember. I was working at McDonald's, feeling like a failure. I watched your videos and enrolled in a machining program." Bob's eyes widened. "Marcus, I remember your email. You said I gave you direction when you had none." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "You did. I graduated 6 months ago, got hired at a precision manufacturing company. I'm making $65,000 a year with benefits. I bought a car. I'm moving into my own apartment next month. I have a career, a future, because you believed in me before I believed in myself." He pulled something from his backpack. It was a small machine part, beautifully crafted, polished to a mirror finish. "I made this for you. It's not much. Just a practice piece, really. But I wanted you to have it, to say thank you. You changed my life, Mr. Henderson." Bob took the part, his hand shaking. It was perfect, precise, the work of someone who'd learned their craft well. "Marcus, this is beautiful. But you changed your own life. You put in the work. You showed up. You learned. I just pointed you in the right direction. You did more than that. You made me believe I was worth something, that a guy like me could have a future. That's what you do, Mr. Henderson. You see people's potential when they can't see it themselves." After Marcus left, Bob sat in the shop, holding that small machine part, and cried. Good tears. Grateful tears. This was what couldn't be painted over. By late 2026, Henderson's shop class had 150,000 subscribers. Bob was producing videos 5 days a week, covering everything from technical skills to career advice to motivational content for people over 50 looking to start again. He brought on help. His grandson, Tyler, handled editing and social media. A former student managed the Patreon and merchandise. Yes, they created t-shirts and hats with the channel logo, and people actually bought them. The scholarship fund had grown to over $300,000 annually, supporting 60 students across 12 states. Manufacturing companies competed to add their names as sponsors. Bob had been approached about writing a book, about creating an online course platform, about partnering with tool manufacturers, about licensing his content to trade schools. He said yes to some things, no to others. He was selective. His goal wasn't to build another empire. It was to help as many people as possible discover that skilled trades were viable, honorable, and personally fulfilling careers, and to show people his age that retirement didn't have to mean irrelevance. One afternoon, Bob got a call from an unexpected source, the CEO who bought his company 2 years earlier. Mr. Henderson, this is David Chun from Modern Manufacturing Solutions. I wanted to reach out because we're having a problem. We can't find qualified machinists. Our HR team discovered that your YouTube channel is the #1 source our recent hires mention when we ask how they got interested in manufacturing. I was wondering if you'd be willing to consult with us on developing a training program. Bob smiled at the irony. 2 years ago, this man's company had told him he was too old, too out of touch, not needed. Now they needed his expertise. I appreciate you reaching out, David, but I'm not interested in consulting. I'm busy with my YouTube channel, my teaching at the community college, and my scholarship program. However, I'd be happy to point your HR team toward resources that might help, and maybe you could sponsor a few scholarships. That would actually solve your problem long term. There was a pause. I understand. And Mr. Henderson, I owe you an apology. When we acquired your company, we were focused on systems and processes. We didn't value the human knowledge and relationships you built. That was a mistake. What you're doing now, building the next generation of skilled workers, is more valuable than any manufacturing operation. After he hung up, Bob told Linda about the conversation. How does it feel, she asked, having them come back to you? It feels good, Bob admitted, but not because they need me. Because I finally understand that my value was never in any company. It was always in what I could teach, what I could give to others. I just didn't know it until I lost the company. And now you're teaching thousands instead of a few dozen employees. Tens of thousands, actually. The analytics say we've reached about 85,000 unique viewers. And Linda, the comments we get, people starting new careers at 55, at 60, at 65. People who thought they were finished discovering they're not. That matters more to me than anything I ever built in manufacturing. On Bob's 75th birthday, his family threw him a surprise party. But the surprise wasn't the party. It was who showed up. Students from the community college, past and present. Scholarship recipients. Viewers who'd travel from other states just to meet him in person. Tom from the college. Former employees from Henderson Manufacturing who wanted to celebrate the man who'd given them their start. And Marcus, who brought 5 friends, all young machinists he'd encouraged to watch Bob's videos and pursue the trade. Sarah, the single mom from Bob's early teaching days, gave a speech. When I met Mr. Henderson, I was drowning. Single mom, working dead-end jobs, no future. He didn't just teach me machining. He taught me that I was capable of more than I believed, that my circumstances didn't define my potential. Today, I'm a CNC programmer making $75,000 a year. My kids are going to college. I own my home, and it started with a 72-year-old man who refused to believe his useful life was over. She turned to Bob. You prove that it's never too late to start again. But more than that, you prove that the most important thing we can build isn't products or companies. It's people. Thank you for building me. Bob couldn't speak. He just hugged her, tears streaming down his face. Later that night, sitting on his back porch with Linda, Bob reflected on the journey. You know what's funny? He said. I spent 45 years building Henderson Manufacturing. I was so proud of it. It was my identity, my legacy, everything I thought I'd be remembered for. And it disappeared in 6 months. Sold, dismantled, erased. But this, he gestured toward his phone, where the Henderson Shop Class app glowed with notification from students around the world. This can't be erased. The knowledge I've shared, the students I've taught, the people who found new careers, new purpose, new hope, that lives on in Marcus, in Sarah, in thousands of people I'll never meet. Linda took his hand. You built something better the second time around. I built the right thing the second time around. I just had to be 72 and lose everything to figure out what that was. So what's next? You're 75 now. Surely you're not planning to slow down. Bob laughed. Slow down? Linda, I've got ideas. There's a whole generation of retiring baby boomers who think their productive lives are over. They need to know they can still contribute, still matter, still build something meaningful. I want to expand beyond manufacturing. Show people how to turn their life experience into impact. Another YouTube channel? Maybe. Or a podcast. Or a book. Or all three. I don't know yet. But I know this. I've got knowledge to share and years left to share it. I'm not done. Not even close. And he wasn't. At 75, Bob Henderson was busier, happier, and more fulfilled than he'd ever been at 50 or 60. He'd proven that retirement didn't have to mean retirement from purpose. That age didn't diminish value, it concentrated it. He'd lost a company, but he'd found a calling. He'd been pushed out his career, but he'd discovered his life's work. And every day, through videos watched in garages and classrooms and living rooms across America, he was proving to thousands of people that it's never too late to start again. The company he built could be sold. The factory bearing his name could be painted over. But the lives he touched, the knowledge he shared, the hope he inspired, that was a legacy that couldn't be erased. And that, Bob knew, was worth more than any business he'd ever owned.